All right, welcome to a little mini lesson that I'm making for you all about the digestive system and how it supports cellular respiration. The goal here is to be able to use our science vocabulary to describe this connection between the cells and our organ systems. So to start with, we should probably define cellular respiration for the purposes of this mini lesson. This is a little bit simplified from what we have done before, but the basic gist is that we need to be able to release energy from nutrients and that this process of respiration is necessary for all life. We're going to be looking at cellular respiration specifically in humans, and that can be expanded out to any complex life that contains organ systems, including the digestive system. So the important things to keep in mind here are that the cellular respiration in humans happens in the mitochondria and uses oxygen. The nutrients from our food that the cellular respiration also uses are a little bit tricky because our body is not able to directly use the food that we consume. The food that we consume is not useful until it is broken down in the digestive system. So that's the important thing to know about the nutrients from our food. And so we start with oxygen that is usable. We start with food that is not usable. The way that digestion supports cellular respiration is by simplifying that food into nutrients. The way that it's going to do that is by using the first three steps of the four-step digestion. So first, ingestion. The food needs to get broken apart physically by taking bites of food, smashing it apart with your teeth, soaking that in digestive enzymes in your saliva. And that's going to be physical digestion for the first two. And then the third one, where the saliva starts acting on the food, that's going to be the beginning of chemical digestion. Next up is the actual digestion step. In digestion, your stomach is going to physically digest the food by grinding the food into a paste, and it's going to chemically digest the food by saturating it with gastric acids or stomach acids, mostly hydrochloric acid, and peptic acid. The small intestines are going to break the food down into nutrients using pancreas enzymes to break apart the proteins and fats. Also, the liver is going to secrete bile, which is not an enzyme. It's more of an emulsifier. It's going to serve to separate those fats from the food paste that the stomach had expelled into the small intestine. Next up is actually the absorption step. So in the small intestine, the part that's being absorbed are going to be the nutrients. So proteins, lipids, carbohydrates. Remember, carbohydrates are sugars, which includes glucose. Those nutrients are going to be absorbed into the bloodstream. And at that point, then they're going to be usable by body cells. They're going to get absorbed by the bloodstream by blood flowing through capillaries. And those capillaries are going to flow through the lining of the small intestine. I believe we learn more about that intestinal lining in tomorrow's mini lesson. Next up, for the cellular respiration components, what we have so far, we have the oxygen being supplied by the lungs. We have our nutrients being supplied by the small intestine. And then both of those are going to be transported to body cells by the circulatory system. Remember that all pickups of oxygen, pickups of nutrients, drop-offs of both of those nutrients into body cells is going to be done by capillaries in the circulatory system. Here is a diagram that's going to describe this whole process in less detail. So not sentences, but a drawing. So let's start off with our little happy human. The happy human is going to have two tubes leading out of their mouth. Tube number one is going to be your trachea. Tube number two is going to be your esophagus. These two tubes are going to be separated from each other by the epiglottis. Epi means the top, glottis, the gullet, so that's the top of your digestive system. It's going to keep food from going down your trachea. That's going to keep air from getting into your esophagus, unless you're just swallowing air, which is an odd thing to do. Trachea is going to lead to your lungs, and that's fine. That's the respiratory system. We don't care about that for now. Esophagus is more important for us since this is about the digestive system. Esophagus is going to lead to your stomach. Remember, in your stomach, that's going to be where the churning, grinding, physical digestion happens. Also, the acids chemically changing the food, that's going to happen in the stomach. Then from there into the small intestine. In the small intestine, we can add in some bile from the liver to separate out those fats. We can add in some enzymes from your pancreas to start breaking apart those complex proteins into simple proteins, break apart complex fats into more simple fats and triglycerides. We have capillaries leading away from both the alveoli of the lungs and the lining of the small intestine. Those capillaries are going to lead to arteries, where the oxygen that is absorbed and the nutrients that are absorbed can both be transported by arteries to body cells. And then the oxygen and the glucose from the nutrients can both be absorbed by the mitochondria through the body cells from the capillaries and cause cellular respiration to occur. And so that's how the digestive system is going to support cellular respiration. I recognize I did move pretty quick through all of this, but please do pause as you need to back up, review this video a couple of times so you have a firm understanding of how these systems connect to each other. Thank you and have a good day in science.